guys, this is Jamie from System22 and GreatWebDesign.com. Welcome to this video. So here we are continuing with our Divi theme. In this video we're going to add some CSS hover effects to some of our modules. We created these modules last time in a video, and what we're going to do is we're going to add some CSS hover effects to them. It'll make them more interesting to look at. Okay, so first thing perhaps we want to do is let's just open our inspector and decide what we want to do with these when we hover on them. So I'm going to hit the F12 button, or you can right click and hit inspect. And I'm going to select one of these modules here. And as you can see, it's highlighted it, so I know I'm working on the right area here. And I'm going to go down to my inspector panel, just try out a few things. What I want to find out first though is what this color is, because I've kind of been using this color for the theme, so I'll continue on with some of my effects with this color. There it is, OC71C3. So if I just make a copy of that and I'll paste it into a notepad I've got over here, and we'll go back to our blurb section that we're editing here. Okay, so perhaps the first thing we'd like to see, we'll put a border around that of a few pics with that nice blue color. We'll make it solid, 2 pixels wide, and give it the color that we just copied just now, which was that blue color. And you must remember when we're working with this inspector here, anything we do here is non-destructive. What I mean by that is when I hit the refresh button at the top of my browser there, all this will disappear, you know, any changes we've made. But what it's great for is trying out ideas before you actually paste your CSS code into your Divi theme options. So yeah, that'll work. Let's just do that. So I'm going to copy this little bit of code I've just written here. And I'm going to paste it into a little notepad so I've got it. I'll shut that out. What I'll do is I'll go to my Divi theme options. So in your dashboard, you just go down to Divi and theme options. Click on that. And it'll open up this page. If we scroll down, we're on the General tab here. Right at the bottom, you'll see a little Custom CSS title there. It's got a field over here that you can expand if you need to. And this is where we put our custom CSS. Now what I want to do is I want to go to our page. So if I go to the page, I've got my page open here. And these are the sections that we're working on. This is that blurb that we were just editing just now in the inspector. If I go in there, hit the little 3 bars, and I want to go to Custom CSS tab, and I want to give it a CSS class. And what that's gonna do is enable us to add CSS to this particular module or anything with this class we're going to give it. So I'm going to give it a class of HOV, H-O-V. It doesn't matter what you call it as long as you remember it. If you have other classes already in there, that's fine. You can have multiple classes, just separate them with a space, and that's absolutely fine. So we've put that class in there, HOV, H-O-V. I want to save and exit. Now if I go back to our options, theme options, custom CSS, what I want to do, I'm going to give it a title. When you're adding custom CSS, it's a good idea to just give your little sections a title. That way, if you go back and you've done a lot of CSS, you don't have to scroll through and look for stuff. You can just go down to whatever title you've given it. So I'm going to give this a title of hover CSS. And to do that, you use a /*, // then go back in between the 2 stars, give it a little space, and put your title in. Okay, now underneath there, if you remember, we gave that block a little class, or that module a class of hov. I'm going to do dot or period hov. Then I'm going to open curly brackets, close curly brackets, go back in between, just give them a little space. This is where we actually paste our new CSS line. So if I go over to my notepad where I copied my CSS, and I'll just copy what we put in there and paste it there. Now what that's going to do, that's actually going to add a border to the hover class, which was that first module there. Now that's okay, it's not what we want though. If I show you, I just save the changes, save change button, go back to our page. Now you can see on our page it's added that border, which is all well and good, but it's not what I want. I don't want that border here all the time. I just want it when we put our little mouse cursor over there, I just want it to appear. So if we go back to our custom CSS in the theme options, what I'm going to do is just after hov there, I'm going to put a colon and no space. I'm just going to write hover, H-O-V-E-R, and it's important you don't put a space in there. Now if we save those changes and we go back to the page and do a quick refresh. Right, you see it's gone. Now when I move my mouse over that module, the border should now appear. There we go. That's kind of the effect I wanted. It just makes it a little more interesting when people are mousing around. We can take it a little bit further. We can make that a sort of glowing effect, if you like a glowing neon button, by just adding some box shadow using the same color, and I'll show you how to do that. For anybody that doesn't know about CSS, it's an awesome thing to learn, and pretty much any effect that you want to achieve, if you just Google it, there'll be somewhere out there that will have done it and can show you the exact code to put in. I'll do an example. I'll put in box shadow CSS. And there we are, W3 Schools. That's always a great one because they let you play with it. And here's an example. So that would be our hov right there, and box shadow. And if you want to try it yourself, just hit the try it yourself button. And here's their example. And here's the actual box shadow CSS, so you can change it around. You can say, well, perhaps I don't want anything there, and I want 20 there, and I want, say, 25 there. When you've done it, hit the little run button, and it'll change the effect for you. Let's just put in our color that we've been using. I'm just using that color because it keeps everything similar throughout the theme, or gives the theme a theme, if you will. I'll just paste that color in there and hit run. And there we are. There's a sort of blue light effect. It's probably a little more than I want there. Let's try just giving a little. I want it offset slightly, but not too much. So let's give it 5 pixels. So it appears more of a shining light than an actual shadow. Yeah, that's all right. That's getting there. Let's give it a little bit more even. Of course, it's got that yellow background, but well, let's just change that background color. It's very easy. White, you can either write white in, or white is hashtag FFF. It's actually 6 Fs, but if you've got 6 of all the same, you only have to put 3 in. So that's more like what it's going to look like. I'm just going to make that spread a little bit more. Yeah, that's probably going to work, because remember we're on a dark background as well. We're looking at a white background here. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that. And we'll go back to our theme options and our custom CSS. And I'll add this line underneath. One thing you want to remember, just enlarge that a little bit, is you always got to have a semicolon after any line of code you put in if you're putting in multiple lines of code. So if you don't put it in there, it won't recognize it, it won't work. So make sure you've got that semicolon in there. And also when you're putting in CSS, check your spelling. If you've got one spelling mistake there, things aren't going to work correctly. So we've put that in there. Let's save those changes and go back to the site and do a quick refresh on the page. Now when we mouse over, it should have a sort of glowing effect behind that border as well. So let's roll our mouse over. There we have it. It kind of looks like a little neon button going on there, which is kind of nice. Of course, you know, less is sometimes more with CSS. You don't want to go too crazy. But I encourage you to just play around. CSS is a wonderful tool for just making sites interesting, and it's really essential if you're going to customize sites the way you want them. So I'm kind of pleased with that. We can take it a step further. How about if we, perhaps when we mouse over, we get that to bounce up a little bit so it stands out even more. Not that it's not standing out there. We can do that by changing the margin at the top. I'll just show you. If we go in there and I put this in there, back to our themes, our custom CSS. And again, like I say, if you don't know how to do this, just Google it. And there's plenty of source out there to find plenty of good looking CSS, and it's a great thing to learn. So if I put in a bit of code here, margin, top, I'll give it minus 20 pixels. That should make that little box jump up by 20 pixels. I hope. No, it will. As long as I spelled it right and put a little semicolon after, it will do the job. So back to our site, refresh, you know the drill. Now when I mouse over it, we should have those other effects, plus that little box should jump up a little bit. And there you have it. Okay, if you want to get crazy with it, well, not crazy, we can use a bit of what they call ease in and ease out effect. And to do that, we've actually got to assign some transition CSS to our HOV element there. I'll show you exactly how to do that. We go back into our theme, options, and our custom CSS here. What I'm going to do is add a little .hov. So that's pointing to our little module that we gave the HOV CSS class to. Open and close curly brackets. And I'm going to put in some transition things. So I'm going to put in a margin top of 0. That's just telling it that when it starts off, before we've moused over, there's no margin at the top. So I'll go pix, so it knows that it stays where it is when we're not hovering over it. Then I want to put in some transition CSS. So we've got to put a couple of classes in to make it compatible with a few different browsers. So if we put -webkit, then -transition, and then we'll do a colon. Now we need to point it at that margin because that was the effect that we were doing there. Okay, so we put in margin, and the timing is, say, give it half a second, 0.5 seconds, and we'll use a class called ease, which is ease in, ease out. Please Google these terms if you don't know what they are, and that will just make it a little smoother in and a smoother out when we do it. And of course, semicolon afterwards. And we can add, if we copy this little bit right here to the end of the semicolon there, we've got to add something for Mozilla as well, for Firefox. And so we write -moz, and then we can just paste that in there. I'm missing a dash. There we are. If you miss a dash, it won't work, or at least it won't work on Mozilla. So okay, so we've told that hover element what we want it to do here. So let's do a quick save. Back to our site. Refresh. You see now it does it a little slower. It's not so instant. It's got a bit of a... If we go back to demonstrate that better, let's give it, say, 1.5 seconds, which I won't leave it at, but it'll just show the effect off a little bit more because it'll be slower. And refresh. Now when we mouse over, it should do that slower. See, it takes about 1.5 seconds to go up, 1.5 seconds to come down. So that's how you can add these ease in out effects. It just makes it slightly, it's just another little bell and whistle you can add. And as I say, if you don't know how to do it, Google is your friend and it will tell you the answers. All right. Of course you can take it a lot further. Let's do something really stupid here. Let's go back to our hover effect and let's give it a border radius of 50%. Now, I wonder if you can guess what that's going to do. I'm sure there's plenty of you that know what it's going to do. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll give it a transition effect just on that border radius. So if I transition, colon, and I just want to point it at the border, and I'm doing this on the hover, not on the .hov there, because I only want it to do it after it's done its thing on the hover effect. So we're going to point it at the border radius. And I'm going to give it a timing, something stupid, like 4.5 seconds. And again, I'll give it the ease in, ease out effect. And of course, semicolon. Okay. Brace yourselves. I'm sure there's a lot of you that know what that's going to do. It's going to be quite dramatic, actually. Now, of course, we go back to our site and refresh. Now, when I mouse over it, it should still do its hop. But after it's done its hop, it's going to implement those border radius effects. Okay, let's have a look. There you go. I mean, it's a little out of order, but it's just another thing you can do with CSS. Border radius 50% makes it into a circle, basically. Border radius of 4 or 5 pixels just gives it rounded corners. And then when I let go, it'll pop back to where it was because I've not got it in the .hov section. Now, okay, and of course you can just go on adding stuff. You can change the background color of it when you're hovering. I mean, you can, so I'll just say red. I mean, it's not a color we're going to use, but it's just an example here. Save changes. Back to the site. Refresh. Now it should change the background color as well as all the other things that go on. But it didn't. Okay, I wonder why. We can force it to by adding the class of important, and that's exclamation mark IMPORTANT. Oh, and also look there, I've left a D off background color. You know what I was saying before about check your spelling? So let's see if it works that time. I'll cut that important off. You don't want to use that unless you have to. So let's just save that. May have to, we'll see. Back to the site. And a refresh. Now let's see what happens. Still not changing that background color. Well, I think we'll have to force it. So if I put that important back there, so exclamation mark important, that'll probably do it. Back to the site, refresh. Yeah, there, it's done it that time. So that'll get their attention. But anyway, I'm not going to use that. It's just an example. So if you don't want to use it, just delete it. Or if you think, well, I might want to use it later, you can just comment it out. So to comment it out, it's the same as putting a comment like we did at the top here. So all you do is put /* and at the end of the lines that you don't want, */. And save our changes. Back to the site. You know the drill, refresh. And it should have just gone back to that hover color there. That's right. I'll just take that effect down, the timing back down to what it was, ½ a second, I believe, on that. I was just doing that for demo. It's a little slow. But that is entirely up to you. That's more like it. Now, of course, you think, well, I want all those other boxes to do it as well. I don't want to write all that CSS again, you know, it just takes too long. I guess I could copy and paste it. Well, you don't have to. Because we've given that the class of HOV, H-O-V, all we need to do is go back into the page. Once we're in the page, go to the other sections there. This is the other two sections. Custom CSS. Give it the same class, HOV. There's no dot when you're giving it the class. That's only when you're in your custom CSS. Tell it to point to that. Quick save. Next one, custom CSS, HOV, or whatever you decide to call it. It really doesn't matter as long as you remember what it is. Save our draft or update if you've got your page published. Go to preview. Skip to the page. Now hopefully this time all of those will have it. Yeah, they should. Da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. There we are. You can make them dance around all day long. Got a chorus line going on there. Okay, so that's how you add some CSS effects to your modules in Divi. So you don't have to just add those to these internal modules here. You can add them to any module or section or row you want. Let's add one to this here and see what happens. Okay, custom CSS. And save draft. Preview. Now if we scroll down, let's see what happens here. There we go. I mean, it's done the same thing. I mean, that looks pretty stupid bouncing all the way to the sides there, but that's easily fixed. Let's just go back to the page. This is our module we're working on right here. And go to Advanced Design Settings. Scroll down to find padding. Here we are, padding. Let's give it 25 pixels. That seems to work for us on most things. Another save. And hit our preview button. Now when we go down there, let's see what happens this time. Yeah, that looks a little better. It's giving it a bit more space. The padding from top, bottom, and side to side, 25 pixels, just gives it a little more. Of course, just go through your site, put that CSS class on any module or any row or any section you want to have that effect on. And it saves rewriting it. And, you know, you can build other classes and do the same for different sections. But it does give your site some extra dynamics and makes it look a little more interesting for your viewers. Okay, so we put one on that little middle blue section there. There we go. You think, well, I can't see the border and I can't see the glow, which is quite cool actually. And the reason for that is obvious, I'm sure you know. It's because we're using this same background color for the border and for the glow, so it just makes that hop up a little bit right like that. And you can use it on these sections here if you feel like it. I mean, you could put a little different sort of kind of shadow effect or make a different shadow effect. I'll just show you. Let's put it on that blue section there. Just go to the three little bars there, up to the custom CSS class in there and save it. Always update or save draft before you preview so it refreshes it. And if we go down to that blue section now, once we hover over that, it should have a little blue glow on it. So let's go ahead and do that. There you go. You see that little blue glow, and it's hopping up a bit to the section above. All right. So there is how to add CSS hover effects to any section or module in your Divi theme. It does make life more interesting for your customers or your viewers, and it's a great thing to know. And for those of you that don't know anything about CSS, why not? Start learning it now. It really is awesome. If you're building sites, you can do so much with it. So I hope that's been useful to you. Once again, this has been Jamie at System22 and GreatWebDesign.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.